Hello friends, this is Tina and welcome to a new video. I know I haven't really posted much lately because I've been so busy with painting challenges and shop updates and just life, but finally I'm posting this video that I think I filmed like a few months ago at this point. I have many videos filmed, but I just haven't had time to edit them, but I hope I can do that soon. So this is the first one, and as you can see from the title, we are going to be painting the last spread in my sketchbook. I know I haven't really shared almost any videos of this sketchbook, at least lately. So I started the sketchbook back in, I think, June last year or July last year, and I finished it in February maybe. You can see that there's a little bit of time between me actually finishing this and now making this video. So I think it was in February, but anyway, months ago at this point. But I really wanted to just publish this video of me finishing the last page, and then the next video, or at least one of the next videos, is going to be me actually flipping through the pages in this notebook, and then I'm going to be starting a new one. I did the same thing with my previous sketchbook, and in this video I'm going to be painting the last page, but I'm also going to be talking a little bit more about this notebook, since I know that many of you are also interested in painting in your sketchbooks. So I'm going to give you like a little review and my final thoughts on this Strathmore mixed media sketchbook. First of all of my used products are listed down in the description, so if you want to get the sketchbook or any of my paints, they're all listed down below. In this video, I'm painting some apples. This was actually not something that I was planning on doing, because I had a plan, like when I had like maybe 5 last spreads in the sketchbook, I decided that I would just sketch all the remaining pages, so whenever I got that time, I could just, move on to the next page and not have to worry about when I'm actually going to be painting. But I ended up mixing the sketches of like 2 of the full spread paintings I decided to do. I had this other mountain meadow with flowers that I wanted to create, but I actually ended up accidentally sketching this apple painting on the last spread. So this wasn't supposed to be my last spread in the sketchbook, but who really cares? It's okay. But I, after I had already sketched all of the apples and it took a lot of time to do all of that, I was like, well, I will just leave it like this and paint them in this order, and it's totally okay. I don't know really why I decided to go for apples. I really just wanted to go for some like harvest garden, maybe a little bit autumnal vibes for this last spread for some reason. I haven't really painted a lot of like fruits or any sort of things like that in the sketchbook, so I wanted to do that before the sketchbook ends. So we're going to be doing that in this video. And just a disclaimer here in the beginning, this video is going to be very chatty and I don't have any sort of written script for this one, and I'm also not going to be posting a full real-time video of this in my Patreon like I do normally. This just took me a lot of time to paint. I had like 6 hours of footage and I didn't even film the whole process, so it took me a while, and overall it's not a painting that I absolutely love. So instead I just thought that I would just publish this one video. I'm also not going to be talking about the process much. It just has these little real-time snippets of the painting process, and I'm going to be mostly talking about the notebook that I just finished. But anyway, I have already talked for a long time, so I guess we should be talking about the notebook now. So again, this is a Strathmore mixed media sketchbook in A5 size. It has a hardcover and it has, I think, something like 64 pages, and the page thickness is 190 GSM. This was gifted to me by the brand, but I just had this laying around, so I thought that I would use this because many other artists are using the sketchbook and really like it. So I thought that I would try it out as well after I had already finished my previous Moleskine art collection sketchbook. They are very different from each other, and I immediately noticed that when I started this sketchbook. And by the way, if you are curious about what my first thoughts about this notebook were, I did film the video of me like starting it and making the first pages in it, and it is linked in the description if you want to check that out. But anyway, I noticed it immediately how this definitely handled my gouache paints better. The Moleskine sketchbook that I used previously was definitely more suited for drawing, and this definitely felt much better with gouache and wet mediums. And I immediately noticed that it has a very rough paper and a little bit textured paper compared to the very, very smooth Moleskine sketchbook that I had. The pages are also whiter. They are actually pretty white, which is really nice. That's something that I did like about this sketchbook. And obviously the pages are a little bit thicker than in my previous sketchbook. So overall, I think that this sketchbook, with the quality of it for painting, it works really well. And if I would be giving out a recommendation for someone that likes to start painting in a sketchbook like I do, I would definitely recommend this sketchbook in terms of quality with painting. I think that this definitely handled the wet mediums really well. I never had any sort of issue with buckling or wrinkling or any sort of bleed through at all. And it also worked really well with blending and just making gradients, and tapes never ripped my paper. So all of those things were really nice. And overall, I think that this was a pretty good sketchbook, but I am not going to be using this again. Obviously, never say never, but this sketchbook as it was had still some not so good aspects to it, so I don't think I would ever go for this again with the way it is now. Again, it's not a bad sketchbook by any means, and it worked better with gouache than my previous sketchbook did. But while I was using this, I noticed that, you know, the way it handles wet mediums and gouache might not be, weirdly enough, might not be the most important aspect of a new sketchbook. I'm someone that definitely goes with vibes and just the feels of the products that I'm using more than the technical elements, I guess. You know, I'm not someone that always chooses the best product for all the things that I'm using. I like to go with whatever feels great for me, and just somehow this sketchbook, after a little bit of use, I was like, I kind of like the low-key vibe of my previous sketchbook and just the feel that I got while using it. Okay, let me kind of explain this a little bit, I guess, because that does not really say anything. So I'm just gonna start with like the basic things first that I did kind of disliked. So first of all, the cover itself, it's kind of like, I don't remember if it was like this when I started using it, but the cover itself is black, but it's kind of, it looks a little bit more faded. It looks like it has been fading in the sun, and I have not left this in the sun, so I don't really know where that comes from. It's a very small little detail, but overall I think that this cover was very prone to every single little bump that it got from, I don't know, I guess being in my bag. So it has a lot of little marks and little white spots that don't come off. And I didn't even take this with me like everywhere. I took this with me a few times when we were traveling in my like actual like traveling bag. It wasn't even just like thrown into my tote bag when I went outside. So I did not take it everywhere, but it still got really dirty and really like just, it has all kinds of marks in it, which I don't really like that much. I don't care about it too much, but I feel like that was never an issue with my previous sketchbook that I used for a longer time, that I also took with me more to places. So I don't really know what that was all about. But anyway, that's a small little thing. Other thing is that I didn't really like the rectangular edges of the notebook. That probably has a word that I just did not get into my brain. But anyway, my previous sketchbook had rounded edges, and I just liked it more aesthetically. It just looked better with my paintings, I think. So that was also something that I didn't love as much. And also, it didn't have an elastic band. It's not something that I absolutely need for all of my sketchbooks. I don't think I really need it that often. But overall, I think that whenever I paint inside of a sketchbook like this in the way that I do, it gets like the pages get a little bit wrinkly sometimes. And this sketchbook does not want to stay closed. So it doesn't have an elastic band, and when it's just laid on my table, it really wants to open up, and it's kind of annoying. I feel like it looks a little bit not so put together. But again, very small little details. But those are some things that I did already figure out from like the first moments of me using the sketchbook. Those were some things that I would have liked to change, but I was able to live with them. But I do think that one of the biggest issues with this sketchbook was that overall, because it didn't have the elastic band and you cannot really press the pages together like you can with the Moleskine sketchbook when it does have the elastic band. This does not want to stay open or closed. Like I said, when it's just on my table, it doesn't really want to stay closed, but also when I'm just painting in it, or I will maybe display this on my easel on my table, the pages really want to close. Like it doesn't really lay flat in the same way as I was hoping. The covers technically lay flat, but when you're painting in it, the pages just stick up. And it kind of bothers me a little bit because it just makes painting a little bit annoying sometimes when the pages really want to stick up. They don't in this video, as you can see, but it's because of the clamps. So it works like that, but I just hoped that it would lay flat a little bit more. And also I think that that is because of the pages are a little bit thicker, because also, I don't know how to explain this, but you know, the notebook has the middle crease, but in this sketchbook, it kind of has a bigger height difference between these two pages. So when my page is like spread out, it just has a bigger height difference between the two pages in the crease in the middle. So it has been really tricky for me to paint full spread paintings because I constantly have to pick up my notebook to make sure that everything is leveled and everything is lining up, because there is like I don't know how to explain this, but the middle section just kind of raises up the pages a lot, which again is kind of like, it just doesn't lay flat in the way that I hoped that it would, because my previous sketchbook is really, really good with that. So again, not a very big deal by any means, but I think that those little inconvenient details just kind of made me remember my previous sketchbook very fondly, because the only thing that I did not really like with my previous sketchbook was the fact that it was sometimes a little bit tricky to blend colors together. And I also managed to do that pretty okay when I was kind of used to using the previous sketchbook. So yeah, I'm going to be going back to my Moleskine art collection sketchbook because I just love it now that I look back at it. I've actually already started using it since this video was filmed so long ago, and I have already filmed me starting it and everything. So I have loved it so much more right now when I've been using it. I just feel like sketchbooks, especially if you're using them this much and you are spending so many hours on it, because if you think about the fact that this sketchbook has like 64 pages, I have spent like at least 100 hours just painting inside of it. I feel like it has to feel good for you to actually enjoy the process. Don't get me wrong, I did enjoy many of the paintings and I enjoyed, you know, working on them, but I definitely can remember just the fact that painting in my previous sketchbook and painting in my current sketchbook, which is the Moleskine art collection sketchbook, just felt a little bit better, and I just had a better feeling about all of that. So yeah, overall not a bad experience by any means, but I am happy that I tried out a new sketchbook, but I'm also very happy to go with my first one again because it just has the vibe that I'm looking for. It just feels a little bit more low-key with the smooth pages that aren't as thick. It just also has more pages. That is the only like big downside to my current sketchbook, is that I don't really enjoy the fact that it has so many pages. So that also was something that I enjoyed about this Strathmore sketchbook, that it has less pages. It didn't feel like it was as big of a task to fill this one up, and obviously it wasn't because it was smaller, but I quite liked it, that it just didn't take me as long to finish it. But anyway, I would recommend this sketchbook to someone else. Again, it's really all about your own preference and what you're looking for. If you just want to paint in a sketchbook and you really don't care about vibes and feelings as much as I do with these types of things, this can be a perfect sketchbook for you. I would highly recommend you to go for something that is better suited for the medium that you are using than just going for the cheapest and kind of most random low-key option there is, because you're going to get the most out of your medium if you go for something that it is suited for. But anyway, I also feel like I just didn't find the same attachment to this sketchbook and the paintings that I did in it compared to my previous one. I feel like with this sketchbook, I went for a lot of seasonal paintings that I didn't really do as much in my previous sketchbook. So I think that I didn't end up experimenting as much in this sketchbook as I did with my previous one. I feel like I kind of focused on the seasons too much. So for example, in winter, I really painted a lot of winter paintings, and when I got a little bit bored of that, I kind of didn't even realize that I could just paint whatever I want. It's a little bit tricky sometimes when you are posting your art on social media and you kind of want to, do similar things as other people are doing. So when it's winter, you want to post mostly like winter related paintings, and it's also a lot of fun to kind of really take in the season that you are in. But for me, winters are always hard, and I think that this sketchbook just reminds me of winter so much, mainly because I really was working on it during winter. So it's kind of like now that I'm out of it, I'm kind of like trying to distance myself from it. Overall, I think it's very normal that as artists, we sometimes go through phases where we don't really get as attached to our work. Maybe it's, a collection of items, or maybe it's all the pieces inside of a specific notebook, or maybe it's just something that you created during a specific time. But there's definitely moments where I feel a little bit less attached to my work. And I think that even though there is so many pieces that I love in this sketchbook, like so many things. I think that some of my best work is definitely inside of this sketchbook, but there's still something that I feel about this sketchbook that makes me feel not as attached to the pieces that I created in it. I think that it could also just be the season. I feel a little bit less inspired during the winter, and I think that during maybe summer and autumn, it really comes back, and also spring. I think overall winter is my season of no inspiration, so that could kind of dictate the way that I'm feeling about my art done during that time. Because I also remember when I was bullet journaling, some of my bullet journals that started during the summer and ended during winter, I feel like maybe it's just like the end of the year and just kind of getting fatigue and feeling tired and just kind of craving for something new. Maybe those kinds of feelings kind of dictate the art that we're also making sometimes, and maybe that's why we feel a certain way about something. But anyway, I cannot wait to show you this whole sketchbook. I've been holding on to these videos for so long because I've been so busy, but I'm really excited to show you the whole sketchbook and just kind of show all the paintings that I created in it, because I really just feel like I haven't been able to share almost anything here on YouTube for a little bit. So I'm really excited to show you all of these paintings and also just kind of move on to the next one, because I'm already so excited about my current sketchbook and I cannot wait to show you how I started it. I'm sorry that I only talked about my notebook in this video and not about the process at all. I guess I was just in a chatty mood for this one. But I think that this painting definitely turned out to be a little bit more cartoonish than my other paintings, with the super white harsh highlights on the leaves and the apples and the very black background with not much detail. I had this very exciting idea in my mind first about this very detailed and this very dimensional piece with a lot of things happening in the background, but I really just kind of gave up on that at some point because this took me so long and I was actually working on this very late in the day, so I kind of gave up on this a little bit. I think that it still turned out really good, but I definitely didn't take it all the way there that I had, planned previously. But overall, I'm really happy I got this done, and now the sketchbook is all finished and I can move on. But yeah, that was quite a quick video. I really was just like repeating my steps over and over again with this painting because we had just like so many repeating elements in it. So I tried to kind of just show you some little snippets of the process and talk about the sketchbook, and I hope that you enjoyed it, even though it was kind of like maybe more on the negative side. I don't want to sound negative, but I do want to give you my honest opinions on, products that I'm using. This was nothing against this sketchbook or the brand, by the way. Like, I did not dislike this sketchbook as it was. It just wasn't for me, and sometimes that's okay. And I do want to sometimes take this time to talk a little bit more honestly about my thoughts, because you cannot really do it with Instagram posts and whatnot, because you really have to just like say your thing in a minute and maybe write it in the caption. So I wanted to take a little bit more time to actually talk about my thoughts on the sketchbook. I don't know, maybe some of you are interested. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I'm going to be posting my flip through next, so I hope that you are also looking forward to that one. But anyway, make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, like the video if you like the video, and maybe leave an apple emoji down in the comments so I know you watched until the end. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye.